So, as a fearful avoidant attachment style, it is very possible that you find yourself in this never ending tug of war between yearning for love and connection, but then really wanting to have personal space, personal time, and personal boundaries. And yet, you may find yourself have a really unhealthy relationship with boundaries if you're willing to be honest with yourself. I've always said that setting boundaries from a place of anger is not effective boundary setting. What we want to be able to do is master our ability to be assertive in setting boundaries so that you can leave this cycle behind of people pleasing, then feeling resentful because you can only people please for so long before you begin to feel taken advantage of, and then eventually blowing up or becoming angry at somebody and basically behaving in a way that pushes them away. And after the dust settles, you may find yourself feeling guilty about that and returning back to the cycle of people pleasing. And this cycle can go around and around and around as a fearful avoidant attachment style. But in today's video, we are going to talk about how to really understand why you fear setting boundaries, what those underlying fears are actually about, and how to work through those fears so you can finally have a healthy relationship to boundaries in your life, meaning that you can have healthy balance between the relationship to yourself and the relationship to other people. And it doesn't have to feel like you're chronically people pleasing or exhausting yourself to the point of burnout in your relationships. The very first thing you want to understand is that the reason you may struggle with the setting of boundaries is usually because you've been conditioned to think that your own boundaries are a negative thing. Generally, if you grew up in a really chaotic environment or there was a lot of instability growing up, then you learned that I'm not allowed to have boundaries. I have to basically take care of other people in this really chaotic, unstable environment. Or I have to walk on eggshells so much around unhealthy people that if I do set a boundary, the punishment is going to be too severe. So, even though we are wired to have a healthy personal domain and this connection to our own boundaries, you basically chose the lesser of two evils. In other words, you realize that the pain of having boundaries and getting punished for them or having negative consequences because of them was more painful than the discomfort of giving your boundaries up. And so you chose, okay, well, I'm going to give my boundaries up in the name of trying to avoid more pain. And this became a conditioned pattern over time. And so, as an adult, because of this really unhealthy relationship to your own boundaries, you probably feel like you're just a pendulum swinging, going back and forth between people pleasing and then feeling angry and frustrated and pushing people away. And so, as we talk about this here today, I want you to try to listen in and tune into what you think your major fears are about setting boundaries. We're going to cover the deepest subconscious fears for the fearful avoidant. So the biggest ones I tend to see are, and we can sort of think of these as like the secondary layer, the less harsh layer, is number one, if I set a boundary, I'm going to seem like a burden. And we can be afraid to say no because we think that, we're going to be a burden to somebody for having our own needs or having our own boundaries or domain. Another big one, and again, keep track of what really shows up for you. And I'll give you a little exercise to do at the end with this. Another big thing is fearing that people are going to think you're a bad person. Oh, they're going to be angry at me. They're going to think I don't care about them or that I'm a bad person if, in fact, I do set a boundary. Now, as it gets a little bit deeper, it can actually become a little bit harsher, and our emotional attachment to some of these other fears can be even stronger. Another big one is that if I set a boundary, I am going to be shamed for it. Somebody's going to shame me. They're going to think something's wrong with me that I'm setting this boundary, that this isn't what a good person does or what I should be doing. And they're going to see me as defective in some sort of way. Now, we have three other huge ones. Another huge one is this fear that you're not going to be earning your worth. And so nobody will need you or want you once you start having boundaries. And if you see this one come up for you, chances are you've really connected your identity to this person who's supposed to give to everybody else and do everything for everybody else in order to receive any sort of connection in a relationship. And this sort of goes hand in hand with this idea that if I don't set my boundaries, I'm going to be unworthy. I'm not going to be worthy, or I'm not going to be loved, worthy of love. So they can really go hand in hand there together. And I'll share the last two with you, and these are actually the most painful ones, and some of the biggest reasons that we can go on and on without setting boundaries for a very long time. But if you're hearing this, if you're hearing these boundary patterns in your life, if you're seeing these big underlying fears because the way you were conditioned and how you were brought up that are showing up for you, I do have a boundaries course you can check out fully for free just for a limited time. But it's fully free for 7 days using the link in the description box below. So I will put a link to that. And again, it will help you recondition your whole relationship to boundaries and actually leverage how the subconscious works and neuroplasticity to really rewire your relationship to boundaries so you get results very fast. Literally within that 7 day period, you'll have everything you need to know and taking these huge first steps to totally change and transform your relationship to boundaries. So the last two major fears here are the fear of being abandoned. If I set a boundary, I will be abandoned by people in my life. And this abandonment wound can really push us to do things that really basically end up making you abandon yourself because you are trying so hard to please somebody else or connect us to what somebody wants from you. We can be willing to go to great lengths to hang on to connection to others. And last but not least, if I set a boundary, I will be unsafe. The punishment will be too big, or I'm really scared. And usually this represents that you actually experience some of that growing up in your upbringing. So we have to be able to assess what these major fears are. And then I want you to take these ones that showed up the most for you and really question them. Is it possible that I can set boundaries now as an adult and still be safe? Is it possible that I can set a boundary in a healthy way with my loved ones and still stay connected rather than be abandoned? Can I set a boundary and still be worthy of love? And I want you to just challenge and question these ideas that you've been holding on to for so long. And this can be the first step in that awareness piece to really seeing some momentum. Now, of course, there's deeper subconscious programming that you can do. But this first awareness piece and deeper understanding of yourself goes a very long way. And if you want to do that deeper dive, you can check out that course for free for a limited time using the link down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you for stopping by. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the like button. And also, please consider subscribing to this channel. I can't wait to see you in future videos.